Okay, this is a little dated. I don't know how many years ago this was written, but I thought it was worth reading into YouTube. It's 8 pages, and it's a part of a fundraising effort that the Alaskans folks did for Schaeffer Cox, specifically Maria Rensel, who's been a steadfast friend of Schaeffer Cox throughout his incarceration. The first page says, "From the desk of Miss Maria Rensel, care of the Free Schaeffer Cox Fund. Fellow Patriot, 26 years in a cramped 6x9 cell. That's how long Obama's feds unjustly sentenced my friend Schaeffer Cox to serve in a federal prison. All for the crime of publicly supporting the Constitution and believing the government should follow it. That's all it took for Obama's Justice Department to take away Schaeffer's freedom, widow his wife, Marty, and orphan his 2 children, Seth and Bree. Here's his beautiful family in the card I sent you. It pains me every time I look at them. Not just because I know how much the kids miss their daddy and Marty has to learn how to live without her husband. That's bad enough. What really upsets me is that I know how afraid they are to ask for help. Especially Marty, and I don't blame her. I've seen firsthand how Obama's feds intimidated their family to keep their mouths shut, like when federal agents tore apart Schaeffer's home, or how the IRS may have attacked Schaeffer's dad, a Baptist preacher, threatening him with an audit. Odds are they'll come after me the same way for sharing his story with you today, but you know what? I promised Schaeffer I would do everything I could to get him back home. And if that means risking my own comfort and security to make sure he has a chance to hold Marty, Seth, and Bree in his arms again, then that's a risk I'm willing to take. With that said, here's Schaeffer's story. I'll never forget the first time my husband Bill and I met Schaeffer and Marty Cox. It was at a local conservative meeting here in Fairbanks, Alaska in 2008. Schaeffer was talking about lowering taxes, protecting Second Amendment rights, and stopping the growth of big government. And boy, did he command a crowd. Bill and I could tell right away that he was up-and-coming star in the conservative movement. But what I remember most was how much he loved his family. Everyone knew him, could see he was a loving husband and father. Every time I saw him, he had his newborn son Seth in his arms. He was such a girly dad. It wasn't long before Schaeffer had a huge following of motivated supporters and decided he could make a big difference in the Alaska legislature. So in 2008, with Marty's blessing, he ran a strong campaign for the Alaska House and narrowly lost the election in a tight 3-way race with 37% of the vote. That left him in a great position for a strong run in the next election. But that was 2 years away. And like you, Schaeffer refuses to sit back and watch his country fall apart. So he just kept right on working and holding meetings in Alaska, and then later in the 48 with a simple platform. The government needs to follow the Constitution and stop treading on your rights and my rights, especially our rights to free speech and to keep and bear arms. And boy, did he strike a nerve, not just with the thousands of patriots that poured into halls across several western states, but with Obama, Holder, and the leftist friends. That's when Schaeffer's family's nightmare began. Looking back, we now know that Obama's Justice Department searched high and low for a reason to silence or arrest him. Anyone who knows Schaeffer knows how ridiculous that sounds. But looking back, we can see that the feds were showing signs of how far they were willing to go. Like you, Schaeffer's an honest man who fears God, loves his family and country. He ran a successful business, paid his taxes, and followed the law. But you know, Obama and Holder weren't looking for criminals. They were targeting conservative patriots who are pro-life and believe in the Second Amendment. And since they couldn't pin anything on Schaeffer, they had to make something up. You've probably heard of Operation Polar Pin that was dreamt up to target Alaskan conservatives. It was all over the news and a huge scandal up here in Alaska. What the feds got away with using your tax dollars will shock you. Their plan was simple. use undercover FBI informants to create fake charges and sabotage political campaigns of anyone on Obama's enemies list. And by the way, the informants they used were felons who agreed to do this in order to reduce their own jail sentences. Talk about corrupt. But it worked. Obama took down Republican Senator Ted Stevens, also an NRA executive board member, 3 Alaskan state House reps, dozens of local patriots, and they added Schaeffer Cox to the list. I remember the first time Schaeffer told me about these undercover informants. Of course, neither of us had any idea at the time they worked for Obama's Department of Justice and were wearing wires. Late one night, 2 of the informants called a meeting downtown with Schaeffer and several of his friends. 4 hours they tried to convince him to come up with a plan so they could help him attack the government. They said he had to use his influence to organize a violent attack on the government. But if he didn't, they were going to kill him and go after the most important thing in the world to him, his family. Obviously, they were just looking to catch him on tape agreeing with them so the feds could bust him. Boy, were they wrong. And Schaeffer let them know it. He told them they could threaten him and even threaten his family, but there would never be a plan to attack the government. You better believe the informants didn't like that. Remember, these were convicted felons with short fuses. That's when the most despicable of all the informants, named Fulton, came over the counter with a large hunting knife and threatened to kill Schaeffer's friend. Schaeffer still didn't know these men were undercover informants for the feds. All he knew is that they were acting crazy, making death threats, and it probably wouldn't stop there. That's when Schaeffer did what any loving father would do. He packed up his family's bags and got ready to leave town. But the feds were ready for that. They knew that if they didn't strike soon, they'd lose Schaeffer forever. So before Schaeffer and his family could leave Alaska, Obama's feds set an ambush. I'll never forget the day it happened. I was in my office when a young guy ran in and said, "They've got Schaeffer's street blocked off." I just didn't know who they were. Thank God Schaeffer and his family weren't at home at the time. Schaeffer had his family in hiding from the informants, like any intelligent person would do. Nevertheless, later the same day, masked men swarmed into the place they were staying, slammed Schaeffer to the ground, handcuffed him, and whisked him away in a black SUV. I was in shock. His supporters were in an uproar. Marty, Seth, and Bree were terrified. And Schaeffer was sitting in a jail cell, charged by the feds in state court with conspiracy against the government. To this day, I still don't know what that means or how it makes any sense. What I do know is that if the federal government wants you to be guilty of something, they will make you guilty. Just ask Joe Bottini. He's the federal prosecutor Obama's Department of Justice unleashed on Schaeffer, the same man who took down Senator Ted Stevens. After the feds tore apart Schaeffer's home looking for non-existent evidence, Bottini moved the trial hundreds of miles away so Schaeffer couldn't afford to fly in his witnesses. Worst of all, he filed a motion barring Schaeffer from playing wiretap recordings that proved his innocence. You remember the recordings of the informants threatening Schaeffer? That was the final nail in the coffin. The judge convicted Schaeffer of conspiracy against the federal officials and locked him away in federal prison nicknamed Little Guantanamo for 26 years. There were no victims, no laws broken, and no crime, except for the crime Obama's Department of Justice committed. By locking up an innocent man, widowing his wife, and orphaning his kids, just for being an effective leader and exercising his First Amendment rights, not to mention helping others understand their natural rights. No wonder the government was so worried about him. I keep thinking this is one big nightmare. I mean, how could this happen in America? Schaeffer is a loving husband and father and exactly the type of conservative leader America needs. Instead, we're going to throw him in a cage? Just unbelievable. It's totally backwards. Meanwhile, Marty, Seth, and Bree don't have a cent to their name. I thank God that Schaeffer's mom and dad took them in and are caring for them. What godly parents. But as great as that is, it's not what they need. Marty needs her husband. Seth and Bree need their daddy. But without your and my help, Schaeffer won't be able to come home for another 23 years. I can't bear for that to happen. So where does that leave me? It leaves me in the same place Schaeffer and his family are right now. on our knees praying to God that you'll answer our prayers for help to free this innocent man. Will you help do that? You can help right now by signing and returning the card I sent you. Remember, the reason I'm reaching out to you today is because Schaeffer's wife Marty is too afraid to ask for help. After everything she's been through, I can't blame her. I'll make sure she or Schaeffer receive it as your gift of support. Please don't be afraid to write a few words of comfort. Trust me, nothing will lift their spirits more than a kind word from a patriot like you. And while you're thinking about it, will you please consider sending a $26 gift? $1 for every year Schaeffer was unjustly sentenced to serve in prison. Your gift couldn't come at a more important time. Right now, Schaeffer is appealing his case to the Ninth Circuit of Appeals, asking them to grant him a new trial. The good news is that the government is going to have to respond to Schaeffer's appeal soon. The bad news is that his government appointed a lawyer refused to bring up all the issues that will bring Schaeffer home right away. So Schaeffer needs to hire a new lawyer, but not just any. No, he needs the best. And as you know, great lawyers don't come cheap. Fortunately, Schaeffer may have found one of the best appeal lawyers in the country to take up his case, but Schaeffer needs $78,000 as soon as possible to hire him. That's a lot of money, especially for Schaeffer's young family right now. But that's the amount Schaeffer needs to raise to hire the best appeals attorney in the country and fire his court-appointed lawyer. Not only would that allow him to possibly reverse his sentence and return home to his family, it would also overturn a dangerous precedent Obama set when he locked Schaeffer up and threw away the key. Here's what I mean. Schaeffer's case is the first one like it. If you and I stand by and do nothing, Schaeffer will continue to be held in a tiny cell far away from his wife and children. And Obama will have all the legal power he needs to lock up Americans like you and me, just like he did to Schaeffer. Can you imagine how bad Hillary will love to inherit that power in 2016? Yikes. That's not the America I want to leave to my kids and grandkids. And I'm sure that you feel the same. So I have to ask you, one patriot to another, will you help in this, Schaeffer's last chance for a direct appeal to overturn his wrongful conviction and return home to Marty, Seth, and Bree? I pray your answer is yes, because Schaeffer doesn't have long to raise $78,000 he needs to hire America's best appeal attorney before the government responds to his request. That's why I'm praying you'll send a $26 gift right away. If you can send a larger gift for $38, $43, $56, $70, $100, $150, $17, $76, or even more, it would be such a blessing. Any amount you can give will help. I'm just so thankful God gave you a giving heart. But no matter what amount you send, please don't forget to sign and return the card of support so I can give it to Schaeffer or Marty to let them know you are praying for them. Please think about them once more and remember. Seth doesn't understand why the men took his daddy away. Bree was so little she never got to know her father at all. And Marty doesn't deserve to raise her children without their father and be a widow at 27. Schaeffer has the evidence and truth on his side. He just needs your urgent gift of at least $26 to help him prove it and reverse his sentence. Sincerely yours, Maria. P.S. I wish that Schaeffer's wife Marty could have reached out to you today, but after all the threats and intimidation from Obama's feds, she's too afraid. That's why I'm risking everything in her place to share Schaeffer's story with you. After reading it, I'm praying you'll help him in this, his last chance to overturn his 26-year sentence with a direct appeal, and get back home to Marty, Seth, and Bree by sending your urgent gift of at least $26. Okay, I don't know how old this is, but I do know that, praise God for people like Maria that stood up for Schaeffer. The current fundraising effort for legal funds is on fundraiser.com, fundrazr.com. Just type in a search field, Schaeffer Cox. You'll go straight to it. It's currently run by his brother. He has a brother named Grady Cox who lives in Texas. And if you do want to donate, that would be the place to donate for his legal fund. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to promote what Obama's Department of Justice has done to Schaeffer. And we're not just going to sit quietly by while Schaeffer rots in a prison cell for the next 23 years. It's not going to happen. We're going to scream and yell every single day and tell everybody that we can. All right, thank you and God bless, and thank you for listening.